So thinking about the future was difficult. Alec and I then one night went off in my RS 1600 Escort. It wasn't actually an RS 1600, it was an Escort Sport 1600. And I think it was misfiring as usual. And then somebody spoke to someone else that said, why don't you speak to this person? And we went one evening, very quiet Sunday night, left someone else in charge for the first time. Because we used to work like 7 days a week, and we used to work from God knows what time it was in the morning until midnight, every single day, getting stuff sorted out and scrubbing and painting and trying to get the place looking good in the kitchen. We went to a place in Kent, I think it was called Metham, or we called it Meafam, but it may be the way around. And we arrived at this wonderful private country house. And whoever it was that had put us onto it, the owner, or somebody just bought this thing. They wanted to convert it into a country house restaurant, and they were interested in talking to Alec and I about running this thing. And of course, him and I were a pair of chimps. We were saying, well, how are we going to do both jobs? And we quickly worked out it was a case of, leaving Hove and then taking over this country house. And I think this was just the time when I think Raymond Blanc had come on the scene. And there were lots of other books, well, not lots of other books. There was probably about 5 books that we all carted around and looked at. And any moment we got, we were looking at food and ingredients, and we had this thing about English white wine and about, working in a restaurant together. And then we got access to the country house, and that whole thing became a thing of how we wanted to be further ambitious. We wanted to get out there. And I used to, like a parrot, repeat the things to Alec that people used to repeat to me was, listen, if you're in it, sort your shit out and do well. Otherwise, get out and go and stack the bloody shelves. It's not bloody worth it. So that made us both think about what's the next step. And people spoke to me about the job in Brighton. I should take this, and then the executive general manager, director, general manager, executive officer, who looked like something from the royal family. JBS, yes, how are you doing and how are you? And his office was the size of a football pitch, and he had a PA and then a secretary and somebody else. And, he rang a bell when he was ready to throw you out type of thing. And he sat down with me and had a conversation about me, because my salary went up. They decided to put me into a better staff bedroom. And it was sort of coming together, half. Well, I don't know, it depends which way you look at it. Some people would say it was amazing. Other people said there's a lot to do, who cared? But yeah, so I then kind of got to the stage of I wasn't ready for it. It wasn't right for me. My dad spoke to me and just said, think long term, think 3, 5, 10 years. Don't just think about how can I get, because you'll end up in a corner, one-way street. Did they have one-way streets in those days? I don't know. So yeah, I kind of said no. In a very nice way, look for another chef or look for another exec, which the business did. And then not long after that, they occasionally used to show people around the kitchen, and they'd meet me, and they were always, nowadays chefs generally are very young, and well, they seem to be. But in those days, typical head chef was 40 would be young, or an exec chef. But in those days, an exec chef was a proper exec chef. Nowadays, it's commonly used as a title. An exec chef in those days was a bit like Peter Wintle when he worked in Birmingham. It was office, it was administration, it was strategy, planning, big picture. Rarely would they put an apron on or run around the kitchen or make shit happen. But in those days, it was an exec chef, so I said no to the exec chef's position. And I began to think, now's the time to kind of grab the knowledge, continue here a bit longer, work with a new person, and probably, because this has been a couple of years now, and within the chef's world, you don't hang about for an eternity. You don't just kind of stay in a job 10, 15 years. It's about stealing and pinching globules and lumps of knowledge from working with all sorts of different people to steal and to add to your own abilities to actually begin to get on. So, yeah, and then I got called upstairs to the executive general manager's director's office. I'll let you know, Tony. My name's John. Oh, yeah, Stephen, John. that we've actually engaged somebody called Colin Piermunder, and he's German, and he's going to be arriving from Munich. Okay, and when's he arriving? Tonight. Oh, right. Okay, fine. Well, he's in between jobs and blah, 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 and he's come from the so-and-so Berlin, whatever it was, something other, where they have 197 chefs and they have, 474 restaurants and all the rest of it, which in those days to me went from one ear to the rest. So, German was arriving, Piermunder, Colin. Let's see what happened next.